Well, I've been investing since 1986, so about 22 years. I went to film school. That's where I got my degree at Columbia College in Chicago. And I went to film school and got a degree, went to California, and I started working as a grip, which is the guy that does the rigging on the lighting. And I was sitting on the camera dolly one day with the assistant cameraman, and he was talking about his investment, or his house. And this was 1986 in California, when the market was going absolutely crazy. It was going up just leaps and bounds every day. And he told me that his house had gone up more that year than either one of us had made the entire year working. And I thought, wow, and he did nothing but own the property to do that. I thought, I gotta start buying some houses. I knew nothing about real estate at the time. So I went out, I found an area that I could afford, which was Lancaster, California. And I bought brand new construction, had no idea what I was doing. I wouldn't suggest doing it this way. But the value went up. The first month I owned it, the value had gone up 20%. So I immediately turned around and sold it because I didn't want to live there. It was too far away from where I lived. Made money right away. And I thought, this is great, let's do this again. So I bought another one, did the same thing, and this time I thought, well, let's buy something that's maybe a little under market value this time and fix it up and see if that works. And that was my great brainstorm at the beginning. So I bought a property that was a little under market value, fixed it up, sold that, made more money, and I started doing this again and again and again, started buying rental properties and holding on to them. And then I got into new construction. I started building these $1 million houses up in the Hollywood Hills. And these are on hillsides with huge foundations, $300,000 foundations, 29, concrete and rebar, pillars down into the ground to keep them because of the earthquake issues in California. So I had all these things going. And then as 1990, 91 comes along, the market starts to drop off. And finally it started to crash. And by the time it was all over, the values had dropped 30% in California where I was at. Now, in this last downturn, it's dropped 40 and 50% in California. It's been much bigger. But that 30%, because of the way I was buying properties at the time, using my credit, using down payments, because of those ways that I was doing it, plus doing new construction and taking all that risk, I basically lost everything. They came and took my car, they took my bulldozer, they took my concrete forms. Everything was taken from me at that point. I remember walking around up in the Hollywood Hills looking out over LA, and it was beautiful up there, and we lived up there, and I remember looking out over the city. I was walking my dog, Jessie, and at that time, the whole city was on fire. It was during the Rodney King riots as well. So, all these negative things going down at once, everything falling apart at once. On top of that, I was married, and I'd just been married for a year or so, and we were having our first baby. Nancy was 6 months pregnant. So we packed everything up, we moved back to Indiana, and we moved in with my parents. And talk about eating humble pie. What I had done in that 3-year period was build a $17 million real estate business, and I lost it all and ended up moving in with my parents. And my brother gave me an old car that they had just so I could get around. And I became a realtor. And I decided, let's learn how to do that. And I'd never been in sales before. I had no idea what to do with sales, and no idea how to make that process work. But I did have a real estate license in California, and I got another one in Indiana. And you don't really need one, but I thought I did at the time. So I started the process over, and I started to learn how to do marketing. I started to learn how to do sales, and I started to figure out how to buy real estate without using my money, which I no longer had any of, or my credit, which was completely trashed. And I started that whole process over again and rebuilt that business. All the things that I teach today are the things that I learned after the crash. Now, I still use some of the techniques and the marketing techniques and some of the things that we did back in California, but most of the stuff that we're doing was based on ideas that came out of that necessity of doing it without any money. The thing that I learned about being able to get back on your feet, because I know a lot of people right now are going through some of the same things that I went through, maybe not to the same extent that I went through, but they're going through some of the same things with money and credit and issues like that these days. And the thing that I found that I had to do before I could start to succeed again was stop feeling sorry for myself and start focusing on somebody other than me and my problems. So what I did was changed my paradigm, and I started thinking about what can I do to solve these people's problems. We've got people that need to sell their home, and we've got people that need to buy a home. What can I do to help them do that? What can I do for people that couldn't sell it through a realtor? What can I do for people that couldn't buy a property because they didn't have good enough credit, or they couldn't show the income, or they didn't fit the standards of the mortgage industry? So those are the things that I learned how to do, and those are the things that we developed new techniques to make happen. So basically came roaring back, got the whole process going again. Then I started teaching it. Back in '98, started teaching on the internet. I thought the internet was a pretty cool thing. I didn't really have much experience with it, but I got online, and we started selling a book that I'd written on real estate investing online. And then I started coaching and teaching people. And I've been doing this for a little over 10 years now. And I think that I've learned more since I started teaching the process than I learned from the previous 10 years and the failures that I had, because I've learned so much from my students, because they're all over the country, all over the world actually, because I've got people in England, and I've got people in Australia and Europe, and I had somebody down in South America, and so we've done this same techniques anywhere in the free world. So it's been very cool, and it's been a lot of fun to go through that process and make that happen. The first thing that I want people to understand when they start working with me is there's two different types of investing. One is investing for cash flow. It's having a business, an active real estate investing business where you're trying to bring income in every month so that you can live on it, so that you can build your wealth, all that stuff. The second type is passive investing. That's where you buy property, and that property actually makes you money. You hold it, you keep it for the long term, it just keeps making you money until you die, and then you give them to your kids, and your kids make money until they die, and they can pass it on and on and on. And theoretically, if you do it right, you'd never even have to pay capital gains on those properties. The first thing that I believe that you have to have as an investor is cash flow. You can't have a sustainable business unless you have money coming in to support yourself and to support the people you love and to support your business and your infrastructure. Once you have that cash flow coming in, then you want to buy passive properties where you keep it and you keep it for the long term. Now, through this whole process, you want to do it without using money, without using credit. Not just because because you don't have any, but because it makes more sense to do it that way. My philosophy is if you can't make money with no money, you sure can't make money with money. And I think if you look at anybody who's made a chunk of money or who had a bunch of money given to them, they don't know how to invest it. They don't know how to use it. The smartest ones of the bunch that don't know anything about investing, they'll take their money and they'll put it into a very, very safe place where it makes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% interest every year. Now that's fine, and that's a safe way to put money if you've got a lot of it to invest. But most people don't have a lot of money to invest like that and be able to get a good enough return to live on at 6%. So you have to find a way to make that happen in a different way. So that's what active investing is about. You want to buy these properties where you can create the cash flow. Now, when you get good at this, when you learn how to do this and you start bringing in a lot of money, then you're going to want to take some of that money and you're going to want to invest it in real estate. You're going to want to put it in places that are going to be a lot safer than the stock market and much a bigger return than your bank account. So those are the two things that I want you to learn at the beginning. Now, the first thing that I teach everybody who comes into my partner program, my mentor program, is what I call the for rent method. The for rent method essentially is we call up someone who's got their home listed in the newspaper or online for rent, and we ask them a simple question. Would you consider selling your home rent to buy rather than just renting it? Now, our experience is, and we've done this hundreds and hundreds of times with brand new people, first time they've ever done it, 1 in 3 of those people, of those sellers, will say yes. We then have them sign a lease option agreement memo, which makes us a principal in the transaction, so you don't have to be a licensed agent to do this. That allows you to go out and sell the property because you're a principal in that transaction. You can go sell your property, and we charge a lease option fee to take over that property. we get the lease option fee, we also get the first month rent, and we pass that on to the seller. So we get paid the lease option fee, typically between $2,000 and $5,000 on average price homes, and on higher end properties like in California, $10,000 to $20,000. So we'll get that lease option fee. We'll pass the buyer on to that existing seller. We'll be in, out of the deal, made some cash, we're done with that deal. And that's a quick way to start making money right away. And that's the thing that I want to teach people at the very beginning of this process. Matter of fact, I ask them to start making offers on the first day that they're in the business. Well, I tell everybody, give yourself 3 to 4 months before you can expect to make any money at all. Now, I've got people who do it in a week, 2 weeks, but they're the exception, not the rule. They're the ones that get down to work and actually make things happen immediately. So give yourself the time. I also see a thing that I call the 5-week burn. Well, people will be doing this. They'll do it for 4 or 5 weeks, and then they'll give up. They'll just drop it, and they're so close to success, and they don't follow through. Absolutely. We've done it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. There's a hierarchy of zero-down structures. There's not just one way to do this. And you have to understand what the hierarchy is and how each of those different structures works to determine which type is going to work best for any given situation and is going to solve the problem of the seller the fastest and easiest. The hierarchy is subject to is at the top. And this is if you're buying. It's going to be different if you're selling. If you're buying property, buying on the subject to, that gives you the most control. Multi-mortgage is the next way to do it. Land contract or a contract for deed, depending on if you're in a trust deed or mortgage state. Lease options, and then assignable cash purchases. All of those ways to buy zero-down property will work under the right circumstances. So all you have to do is find out what the situation is of the seller and give them an option that works for them and solves their problem. Systemization is one of the most important ideas in business. If you can systematize a business, it's much more likely that you can do it on a consistent basis and take yourself out of the equation so that the business runs on its own. The definition of a business is that it can run without you. The definition of a job is that everything falls apart if you walk away. So you want to have this as a business that's going to run on its own without you. Now, 80% of all businesses that start up fail, but 80% of all franchises that start up succeed. And the reason is because franchises are built on systems. If you take a look at McDonald's, they have a system for everything they do. They have a system for, when they flip the burger, and then there's a buzzer that goes off, tells them to, take it off the grill, and then, they have a chart that shows them what's on a Big Mac, whatever is on a Big Mac, and they pile it up. They have a chart to tell them how to clean the bathroom and when to do it. They have a chart to take very low-level skilled people and make them perform on a very high basis consistently. And if you go to McDonald's in Paris or in Berlin or in New York or in Indiana, you get the same burger every place you go. It tastes the same. I don't know that you'd say that it was good, but you certainly say that it's consistent. And that's what you want to try to create in your business, something that can be duplicated over and over again. So being able to create those systems, that's what I've done for this business, and that's what I hand to you. Systems that are already in place to bring you buyers, to bring you sellers, to get them to say yes, to build a relationship with them without you being involved, and to get them to trust you and have confidence in you so that when you come and make that offer to them, they say yes, and the deal comes together. The systems that I've actually set up are things like autoresponders. Autoresponder is a sequential emailer which keeps in contact with somebody. So on day 1, it sends them out the first email. On day 3, it sends them out another email, just reminding them. Let's say you've got a seller that you're trying to fill their property with a lease option tenant. On day one, it sends them out an email saying, thanks, I'm looking forward to working with you. Here are the things that I'm doing to get your property to move, and we're going to do it as quickly as we can. On day 3, they get another email saying, this is what I've done so far. On day 7, they get another email saying, yeah, maybe you should start thinking about your price. Maybe it's the price that's causing us to take 7 days to get this done. And every week we send them something, or every 3 to 5 days, it'll send them out another email without you doing anything, reminding them of what they need to do to help you sell the property and what you're doing for them. So this builds a relationship, this educates them, it lets them know why or why not this property is selling or not selling, and their confidence in you will work on a much higher level. On the other hand, if you're working with a buyer and you've got them in your autoresponder database, you want them to go out and find properties on their own and then give you a call when they do. You want them to be able to get properties from you. You want them to understand what they need to do to buy that property from you. So you trickle out information to them every few days. You send them another email. You're not doing it manually. Again, it's the autoresponder that does that automatically. And these are letters that I've already written that go out to these people. So it makes a huge difference when it's time that you actually have a property that might fit for them, and you contact them about that property. They're ready to go. They trust you, they know who you are, they've been educated about the process, and they're ready to go. And that makes a big difference. We also use voice blasts that goes out and sends out a voicemail to a group of people, depending on what we're trying to accomplish. Let's say we've got for sale by owners. We do voice blasts to for sale by owners, asking them if they're interested in selling the property under the terms that we want. And then we get a response back from them. Instead of us calling them to get a response, they call us. That changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. Plus, they already know what we're trying to accomplish when they call, so we know that they're qualified on a much higher level. So it does a huge amount for our marketing. We also have a lot of websites that I've set up for buyers, sellers, investors, and each of these people can go to the website, they can listen to an audio, they can read documentation, and they can opt in. So they can put their name and email address and phone number into the website, hit send, they'll get free information back, plus you'll get their contact information so you can start them in an autoresponder so that they'll be able to buy something or sell something to you in the future. So these are wonderful ways to do this business. And that's just scratching the surface of all the push button method stuff that I've designed and created for my business and for everybody that partners with me. I think the whole goal of automation is so that you're not doing the work and so that you're making more money per hour for the amount of time that you're putting in. And having everything else automated and outsourced. So it's either being done automatically by a machine, or it's being done by a lower paid level person who can carry out a task for you and do it on a consistent level. So automation is the only way to have a real business, and these are the things that I teach in this process. The Millionaire Matrix is, I think, one of the most amazing little systems that I ever created. I've been doing it for a long time, and it essentially allows a new investor to build $1 million in wealth in a 2-year period, simply by buying one property with 0 down and no credit every month for 2 years. And during that time, to create enough cash flow so that you can live on it and you can exist and you can turn around and make a great income doing that. So essentially what it is buying properties subject to the existing loan. Basically, they deed you the property, you take over the payments of that property, you put a lease option tenant in that property, get a lease option fee, put that tenant in there who makes the monthly payments for you and buys down the loan. Eventually that's going to be a long-term asset for you. In the short term, you're making the lease option fee as your short-term cash flow. If they exercise the option, you get the spread between the amount of the loan amount of the property that you purchased and the sale price. And you can usually sell it for about 10% more than its actual value. So you can make a spread there. So if they actually exercise the option, then you can make a chunk of money within a year on that as well. So it creates cash flow, it creates the potential for big chunks of cash flow, and it also creates the long-term wealth and the ability to retire on this money after a few years. So it's a very exciting process, and I won't go through all the numbers here, but when you look at it, you only have to do one property, even in the $100,000, $120,000 price range, one a month to make this work. because you're bringing income in from so many different places. Everything from depreciation on the property to buying down the note every month, to the lease option fee that you're getting, to when they exercise the option, the spread on that, and then of course the long-term value of that property, which you're eventually going to get as well. One of actually it's a brand new system. I just have been doing it for about 8 months now. It's called the FSBO system, and we contact, and we do this all automated. I wanted a way to find subject to deals that I could buy, just the ones that fit into the millionaire matrix. I want to be able to find those properties without ever talking to these people. I was finding that I was spending too much time on the phone, and I wanted less time on the phone, so I decided, well, let's see if I can put together a system that completely automates everything until the very last step. I want them to call me and say, Joe, I like your system. I want to sell you my property. I'm willing to do it subject to under the terms and conditions that you tell me that you want. Where do I sign? That's where I wanted to be, and that's actually where I got. Now, you can do a whole lot more deals if you don't make them do everything without you talking to them. If you get into the process a little bit sooner, you can do 2 or 3 times as many deals. But I was doing regularly two or three of these deals a month just in one city using this system. And essentially all it is I have somebody send out emails to for sale by owners, telling them we're interested in their property, and then we direct them to the website that I created that explains how subject to works and how we would buy their property and how we would take over the payments, how we put a tenant in there, and we would take the deed to the property. It explains all the things that we take control of the property, their name is still on the loan. That explains it to them right there on the website. And they then can tell us whether or not they're interested in doing it. And if they're interested, they can fill out the form, click a button, and it sends me an email saying, Joe, I'm ready to go. I like what you have to say. I want to do it. And when I got those emails, 100% of those emails that I got, I was able to say, I want that property or I don't want that property. And if I wanted it, I could have it without exception. I just started doing the buying events a few years ago. I used to do a 3-day boot camp and then my mentor program. They were 2 separate programs. They each cost $10,000 a piece. But what I found was that the people that were coming to the event, where we were buying the properties, they needed more help later on. And the people that had help later on needed to meet with me and needed to go through this event process. So I ended up just sort of biting the bullet. I combined the 2, and now I allow people for the same price, for the one price, to come to both things, to both be mentored for the 6-month and to have the buying event. Now the buying event is unlike any other seminar I've ever seen, because we actually buy properties right there in the room. Not too long ago, I had 48 of my students in a room, and I taught them how to do the for rent method and showed them how to get that process going. And we had 97 deals put together that day, just shortly after lunch. I mean, it didn't take long, maybe a couple hours for me to go through the whole process with them, help them understand it, and then I kicked them into the deep end of the pool and had them start making offers immediately, and we got all those yeses. So millions of dollars of property put together in one room in one day. Very exciting stuff. And we actually had an 18-year-old girl that put together 6 properties, on her own at that same event. Absolutely. The way I've got this structured is that I have a conference call every 2 weeks with everybody in the group, and I get on that call, and it usually takes a couple hours. If it takes an hour and a half, we'll stop after an hour and a half. If it takes 2.5, we'll stop after 2.5. I don't get off that phone until every question is answered, until I'm positive that everybody in the group knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Now, not everybody comes on the call every time, so it's not a crowded call. Usually there's 10, 15, 20 people on these calls at any particular time. But, and even if you don't have questions to ask, they're good to come to, because you get to hear the questions that other students have asked. I used to do this one-on-one, and I found I was just repeating myself an awful lot, and I also found that people weren't asking the right questions. They weren't asking questions they needed to hear. So by doing it with everybody in the group, people are at different levels in their growth. So some people will be asking me more advanced questions, some people ask me more basic questions, and the more advanced people people actually can pitch in and help the people that are beginning with their process. So it's this big mastermind group, and it's a wonderful dynamic, and it's a wonderful way for them to be able to talk to me. Now, I also allow them to email me as many questions as they have, unlimited, and they can fax me all their contracts. I'll look at them, make sure they put them together right, make sure they're not going to get themselves in trouble. So yes, they have lots of access with me. And I think that maybe the thing that sets my program apart from just about any other program out there is the fact that my students, my mentor students, my partners have access to the creator of this program. I don't think you can find that in just about anywhere else. Boy, there's a ton of stuff. I actually, maybe I should even refer to my notes on what we've got. There's over 1,300 printed pages of material. You just get a ton of stuff. It's going to be overwhelming. You get 2 big boxes of stuff from me. So it's a little overwhelming. One of the things I want to say right off the bat, even though you're getting all this stuff, you don't have to go through it all before you get started. You're going to be making offers literally the first day. I'm going to have you listen to a 2-hour audio, and you'll be able to start making offers directly from there. But all this other information is going to help you build your business and grow it and get better at it, because that happens over time. So don't let it overwhelm you. And don't focus on the idea that you've got to do too many things at once. You want to do one thing at a time, focus on that, and then move to the next. Anyway, there's lots of stuff here. The printed materials, there's literally hundreds of hours of online training material, coaching calls, sessions like that you can listen to, all from me. There's 2 sets of recorded 3-day boot camps on CD that I charge. These are the ones I charge $10,000 for, and you can listen to those. Everybody that attended paid that 10 grand. I've got the coaching calls every other week. I've got unlimited emails, fax. I've got the list builder program to show you how to build a list of buyers and investors that you can sell to. This is the way, by the way, how when you build a list of 100 buyers or 500 or 1,000, or some of my students have 2,000 buyers on their list. When you build a list like that and you get a new property and that you need to sell, and you do an email blast out to that list, how quickly do you think you can sell that? I can tell you from experience that you can sell properties in 5 minutes doing it this way. It's phenomenal the way this process works. Also, I've got the Team Leader program. Now, the Team Leader program isn't technically a part of this program, but it's only available to people who are in the program. And what it is other students that have come through my program who have been successful and who wanted to give back a little bit. And they will answer questions, and I kind of designate them as the team leader. They don't get paid for what they're doing. They're just doing it because they want to give back, and they're doing it because they're looking for partners too, of people that they can work with and grow their business on. And I think that's the whole goal for me in this program, not only to make money selling this program, which I love to do, I love to make more money, but it's also to bring in new partners and work with new people, because I can make more money on the deals that you bring me and that we do together, that we profit together on, than I can make in just one payment for a mentor program. I started a new program, and I did it mainly because my portfolio is getting pretty big. And I've got a lot of properties, and I'd love to sell some of those properties and make some cash right now. So what I've done is opened that up to my student partners so that they could get started immediately. They'd have a property to sell. Maybe it's in Indiana. Maybe I got them all over the country. It could be in Michigan. It could be in Ohio. It could be in Texas, South Carolina, Arkansas. I've got them all over the place. And I can give you one of these properties. It doesn't have to be necessarily in your area, but I can give you one of these properties, and I'll show you how to market it, and I'll show you how to get it sold. And then when we make a profit on it, we'll split the profits on that property. There are different things that we can do. I'm also going to show you how to do it in your own area, and I'd like you to start in your own area as well. So this is just another thing to make it easier for you to start making money as quickly as possible. I want to see you make money in weeks, not in months. Oh yeah, that's the concept of building that list. When you have a list that's got 500 people on it, And you know that these are all buyers, and they're all looking for rent-to-own properties, and you get a new rent-to-own property in that you want to sell, and you can parse your list. You can break it up into different price ranges. This person wants, between 800 and 1,000. This person wants between, 1,500 and 1,700, and you can put them into different groups. So when you get a property that fits their criteria, you can blast it out to that group of people that fit that criteria, and then you can get a response from them immediately. Now, I actually have a story of Jim Drayle, who he was going over to put together a deal with a seller on a house, and as he was going over there, he knew he was going to get the property because he's good at it. He knew he was going to get the property. So he made a call to somebody who he knew on his list that was looking for a property that fit that description. And he said, you got to come over and take a look at this property. And he went there, he met with the seller, he got the thing signed, and just as he got it signed, he said, I'm really glad you signed it, because this guy that's driving up into the driveway right now, he wants to buy the property. So let me show it to him, and maybe we can sell it to him. So that's what happened. He sold the property and made it immediately. I've also had people come to my event where they would buy a property and sell it to their list. They'd blast it out to their list while they're at my buying event, and sell the property right there in the room. And we've actually had it so we put it up on the intercom so the whole class could listen to it happening. Very cool stuff. That's another thing about the materials that you're going to get. You're going to actually hear deals put together with live sellers, which I think was enormously helpful, because you get to hear what the dialogue is and what they had to say to make it happen. You'll also know for sure that it's possible because you'll hear it being done. And that's a big confidence builder, which I think you're going to have to be successful in this business. You get all the contracts, everything you need. I even fill them out for different types of deals, whether it's a subject to deal, or whether it's a land contract, or whether it's a multi-mortgage or a lease option. There's different forms that you need for different types of transactions, and they need to be filled out different ways for those transactions. So I have all the forms and all the different ways that they can be filled out, and I take you through step by step how to fill out these forms, what every paragraph means, so that you can explain it to your seller. You don't have to look like an idiot, and you can take them through the process. I know that I heard from one of my students. She said first time she did her first contract, it took her 3 hours to fill out her contract, and she had to read through it, and it was just agonizing. She wanted to understand it, and then she wrote it up and she faxed it to me and said, Joe, will you look at this? Is it okay? And I looked at it. Yeah, you did it exactly the way I told you. It works. You're fine. So she went and she gave it to that person. The deal got done. She made money. Now she's done 50, 100 of those later. She's very active, and she does them in 5 minutes. Just sketch, boom, 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 it's done, it's easy. The more you learn, the quicker this becomes, the easier it becomes, and the more you make per hour, consequently. I've heard that from a lot of people, but I've done it in every area. I've done it not only every area of the United States, high income, low income, high price range, low price range, appreciating markets, depreciating markets, dramatically depreciated markets, where, like California, where the people bought it for $350,000 and it's now worth $200,000, and we sold the property for $350,000 on a lease option. We actually sold it for more than its real value. So it works in those high-end markets. It also works in the low-end markets where a property is $20,000 or $30,000. So it works in every different market that I've worked in. We've been doing this in boom times. We've been doing it in bust times. And I got to tell you, the bust times have maybe been the most exciting times, because there's so many more opportunities out there, even though there are people feel more under pressure, and they have maybe less money at this time. But it's still working, and maybe working on a higher level than it ever has. Absolutely. I have a broker's license. I have had one since, I've had a license since 1986 when I got started here, and I have to do everything legally. I have to disclose what I'm doing and make sure that it's done properly. All the paperwork, it's all been looked at by attorneys. And keep in mind, I'm not an attorney. I don't even play one on TV. But and if you're at all question anything that I've put together or that I do, make sure you go have an attorney look at it. Every attorney that's looked at our stuff has said, no problem. Maybe they want to change a sentence here or there. But everyone that looked at it says, no, this is accurate. The way he's doing it is legal, and there's no reason that you can't do it this way. You don't need a license to do it the way we're doing it. I think that there's a perception out there that you have to take advantage of people. You have to take advantage of some old lady and steal her equity from her house. The money that she was going to give as an inheritance to her kids. That's completely false and completely wrong-headed. And I know that there's even people out there that teach these negotiation tactics, these hard-nosed negotiation tactics to beat people down and try to get better deals on properties. We don't need to do that. We make our money in a different way. We make money in the long term by the sustainable deals that we keep for the long term. So even if you bought a property and the value drops on it, and it's a sustainable deal, you can keep it through the hard times. A lot of the properties that I sold as long-term investments to investors, they still have them because the rent is covering their mortgage, even though the values on some of them have actually dropped. But they're going to be able to keep them through these next few years as the values come back up, which we'll see that happen. And then eventually, these properties will pay off. The rents will go up, they'll pay off early, and then they'll have income on these properties for the rest of their life. If you cheat people, if you take advantage of them, if you give them bad advice on how to do stuff, it's not a sustainable business. Not only can't you sleep at night, maybe some people can. I can't sleep at night if I try to cheat somebody. I want to know what I'm doing in the world is good and is solving people's problems and is serving the best interests of the people that I'm working with. So whenever I have a buyer who needs a property, but they can't buy it because they don't have good credit, they need to put a house, they need to put their family in a house, but they don't have much down payment, they don't have good credit, and they don't qualify for a loan. I can get them into a property. And when I do that, we get hugs, we get thank yous, we get tears at closing. I never thought I could own a house, is the kind of comments that we get. Thank you for doing this. There's nothing that beats that. And when you've got a seller who can't sell his property, all the realtors have talked to him and said, oh no, you're upside down in that property. We can't sell that property. We wouldn't make a commission if we did that. Here's a property, it's worth 140, you owe 140 on it, but my commission is 15,000. If we sell this property for you, you'll have to come to closing with $15,000. Well, these people don't have $15,000, but they're forced, they've got to move. So they've got to make a choice. Do I go into foreclosure, or is there some other option? We give them an option by filling it with a lease option tenant and solve that problem for them. And those people are very grateful for us. They're not angry with us. They don't feel taken advantage of. I worked as a realtor where I made commission. And those people, even though they accepted the fact that they had to pay me that commission, it was always a little bit under their skin, thinking, why you made a lot of money out of my commission for that. And I heard that sometimes, and sometimes I just got a feeling about it. And I know they felt it. But when I do this, when I do the investing, the way I'm doing it now, all I get is people saying, thank you, thank you. You solved the problem, thank you. The mentor program is very expensive. It's $10,000. There are some discounts. If you are a member of my monthly newsletter, which is a $39.95 a month newsletter, I send it out with a CD. If you're a member of that, I give 30% off. So if you're not a member, you should become a member. So that would make it $7,000. You can pay $2,000 up front. I'll finance the rest of it, $416.67 a month for 12 months. Or if you want to pay it off in a lump sum, I'll even give you a bigger discount, another $1,300 off, so it would be $5,700 if you paid it all in a lump sum. Absolutely. That's why I tell everybody up front, this is an expensive program. But you also have to remember, expensive, there's expensive and then there's expensive. Expensive is very sort of a general term because it's expensive to go to college. If you went to college now, it's going to cost you, between $50,000 and $80,000 to go to college. Very expensive, actually a lot more than that these days. If you decided to buy a business, let's say you wanted to buy a carpet cleaning business. You know, who wants to clean carpet? But let's say you want to buy a carpet cleaning business because it's a cheap way to get started, and you can make money, and you can have a, you know, a little bit of freedom, and it wouldn't be a bad life. But a carpet cleaning business will cost you $20,000 or $25,000 to get started, and you're going to be making less than $50,000 a year working your butt off. So there's expensive, and then there's expensive. So if you're going to spend the money on something, you should spend it on your own education to learn how to do this process, because the business itself doesn't require money at all. You can start with as little as a cell phone and a newspaper, and with those two things, you could start making money immediately. Because I want to make more money. When I teach this stuff, I make money teaching it. I also, which I think is the whole point of this program, is to partner with my students. When I partner with my students, we do deals that make a lot more money than what I would make from them just training them. So it's much more profitable for me to do it that way. Rather than thinking that, oh no, I shouldn't tell anybody about what I know because I want to keep it all to myself. I'd rather open it up, because the more I teach other people, first of all, the more I learn, and the more money I make. It's this idea of abundance rather than scarcity. You know, if you live with abundance, the abundance mentality, you'll know that the more you give, the more you'll receive. If you live with scarcity, you'll be trying to constantly hoard what you have so that nobody else can get it. So yes, I still make money investing, and I make more money investing with my partners. And I make money teaching what I know. And by the way, the reason I charge for this program at all is because it's got to, first of all, I want people that are committed to the process, and I want it to be a sustainable business in itself. The teaching program has to be a sustainable business for me. So by charging for it, it can be sustainable. If I was doing it for free for everybody, that would not be sustainable or even desirable. And the other thing is, when people come and learn from me, they have two options. One is they can do partnering with me, or they can go out and build their own business and do their own thing and keep all the profits for themselves. And I'm perfectly happy for them to do it either way. Some people go out there and build a killer business, and you know, they do it on their own, and they call me every once in a while, tell me what's going on, and I'm rooting for them, and they move forward. Other people, they do that as well, and they want to partner with me, or they find a deal. Hey, what if we did this? Because they know I've got a list of 60,000 investors that I can send out a deal to, and I can sell it very, very quickly. So they can use my resources. They also know that I've got capital that we can use towards properties. So those are the reasons I charge for this program. I know from your perspective, looking at this, it seems like a lot of money. And you know, for anybody, you know, this kind of money is expensive. But when you start doing deals, if it only takes you one deal to get your money back, was it really that expensive? How long does it take you to pay back the student loans for a medical degree? I've actually set up a guarantee on this program so that I guarantee that you will do a deal and you will make money, or I'll give you all your money back. The only thing that I ask is that you follow through with what I teach. I've never had anyone who followed through with what I teach not make money. Now, I've had a lot of people that didn't follow through with what I teach, because I also guarantee that if you don't do what I teach, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I guarantee you won't make money. So if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to put forth the effort to make it happen and follow through with the step-by-step process that I give you, because I tell you, do this today, focus on this today. Tomorrow, we'll do this. Tomorrow, we'll do that. The next day, we'll do that. And if you follow through with that step-by-step process, and it's all systematized, then you'll get where you want to be. Absolutely. The whole idea with Nothing Down is using other people's resources. And that's what you want to do in this program as well. Now, you may have the capital and you may be able to do it and just come up with a lump sum, and that would be easy, and it probably would end up being cheaper if you did it that way. But if the only way you can do it is by borrowing the money, then I'll finance part of the deal for you. You only have to come up with $2,000 up front. I'll finance the rest of it. And you can probably find that $2,000 from a lot of other resources if you don't have it. And we can probably help you find those resources. Absolutely. When you come into this program, you're allowed to bring in a partner, your spouse, whatever you choose, so that they can learn it with you. I know there's a lot of programs out there that charge an entirely different tuition fee for an extra person, but I allow you to bring them to the buying event. I allow you to bring them on the conference calls. I'll talk to them. I'll answer their emails as well. You can share the materials. They have access to the download, and they'll have access to all the same training that you would have. So if you can find somebody that you can partner with who maybe will pay half of it for you, you can cut your cost in half. That's the other thing. It is tax deductible. You can deduct the entire cost of the program from your taxes, which means if it cost you, let's say you paid the full amount and you paid $10,000 for this program, you would deduct $10,000 from your income. So if you made $80,000 that year, you could show that you only made $70,000. That means you have to pay taxes on $10,000 less income, which if you're in a 30% tax bracket, that's about $3,000 of savings of a discount. So it's going to cost you about a third less because of the tax savings than you're actually paying in money when it comes down to it, because you're going to save that money in taxes. One of the reasons the program works is because I'm there with you. I take you by the hand. I walk you through the process. All you have to do is follow in my footsteps. I've already been there. I've had hundreds of students who've been there with me, and they're there in a group to help you along as well. Also, there's a system to it. On day 1, you know exactly what you need to do. On day 15, you know exactly what you need to do. On day 60, you know exactly what you need to do. Each time you hit a new milestone, you'll get new information about what you need to do next. Now, you're going to get all this information at once, at the beginning, but it's going to be overwhelming, and you're not going to get it. You're going to have to do it a step at a time. So I'm going to show you a step at a time how to make it work. And that's why people are successful with this, where they're not successful with other programs, because they just don't know how to get started. Exactly. When you come work with me, when you partner with me, you're working directly with me. You're talking directly with me. When you come to the buying events, these aren't 1,000-person events. These are small events. And I get around and I talk to everybody. We usually go out to dinner together. The whole group will go to dinner someplace. We'll have lunches together. I want them to interact. I want them to become a mastermind. And I want to meet them personally. The real value of this buying event, other than the fact that you get to come and make offers and do deals and learn this whole process, the value for me is I get to see you face to face. I get to meet the person that I'm teaching. And that makes all the difference for me, because I can connect a face to the name, and it feels much more personal. And I know it sounds a little hokey, but my goal, I want these people to end up being my friends, and they are the people that I hang out with. That's my life, are the people that have been through this program, and who are also investors like this. And that's an exciting thing for me. That's the stuff that I enjoy. I enjoy talking about it, and I enjoy having these people in my life. And that's what I want for you as well. If you want to get involved, before you get started, there's a few things that I need to know about you. First of all, that you're willing to make the commitment of time. You need between 8 and 10 hours of time per week in order to devote to this. I also want to know that you'll follow through with the things that I teach. I want you to tell me that. It's also very important that you're not a whiner or a complainer. I don't need negativity in my life, and I won't stand for that. All it does is brings everybody else in the group down. So we try to keep it positive. Now, that's not to say that you're not going to have challenges, and I don't expect you to be Pollyanna. I expect you to look, these are challenges, we're going to deal with them. But these aren't problems that are going to kill your life. These are just challenges that you have to overcome in order to be successful. And if you go through this process with us together and be positive about it, it's much more likely that you'll succeed. Now, to me, it doesn't matter if you're rich or if you're poor, if you have good credit, bad credit. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what sex you are, what your sexual orientation is. I don't care. All I care about is who you are. Are you going to come in? Are you going to add to my group? Are you going to add to the positive input here? And are you going to do the work? Is it going to be just a waste of your money and a waste of my time? Or are you going to follow through? And if you'll commit to me that you're going to follow through, that's the kind of person that I want in this program. Once you do that, once you commit to me on that, then I know that we can move forward. And it's just a matter of putting the paperwork together. We have an agreement that I have with everybody. We send that out to you to fill out. You send it to us. I take that paperwork, give it to Carolyn. She processes it, processes the payment, and she sends you out a bunch of startup emails. In those startup emails, it tells you what to do first. Now, as soon as you get those, I want to talk to you. I want to tell you, I want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And I'm going to have you start with the for rent method. Start making offers immediately. That very first week, I want you to get going immediately. I'm going to kick you into the deep end of the pool and get you started. If you're serious about this program, if you're serious about getting involved, you need to talk to us. We'll do everything we can to help you. We'll finance part of it. We'll help you find resources that you may not have thought you had. We'll look through all the options with you and try to make it happen for you. And we'll show you a path to help you get where you want to be. So just because you think you don't have enough money right now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be talking to us to find out exactly what you need to do to get to where you want to be. Me and everyone who partners with me and works with me are doing very, very well. If you do or don't get involved in this program, it isn't going to change our life. That doesn't mean that we don't want to bring on new partners or make more money. We absolutely do. But if you get involved, this program, this partnership, this mentor program has the ability to change your life forever for the good. I've seen it happen again and again and again. It's not for everybody. Not everybody is willing to take the risk or do the work. Only 1% of the population of the world is entrepreneurial in mindset and in spirit. Everyone else is willing to stay in a dead-end job their entire life for the sake of security. They're just too frightened. But there are a few who have the desire to succeed on a massive level and the willingness to learn and take the actions required to completely turn around your life. Only you know if you have that. Only you know if you have the willingness to do that.